Welcome, everyone. We will get started in just under a minute at the top of the hour. So glad to see so many people joining us at the beginning of what is a busy new year. And if you've already joined, we love to hear where people are from in the chat if you want to share. And again, we will get started in just a moment. Always love to see how quickly we can cover the map. All right. Well, my clock says top of the hour, so we're going to kick this off. Welcome again, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Jennifer Malkovich. I'm the Vice President of Product and Marketing at Cidi Labs. And today's webinar, Declutter Canvas Propel Progress, is a shorter 30-minute session designed to really just highlight the many benefits that can come from removing files and content that may be cluttering up your Canvas courses to support and streamline the important work that you do. And we'll, of course, show you how our clever, affordable tool, aptly known as TidyUP, will make those benefits very achievable. TidyUp is just one of the 6 game-changing tools that we provide for Canvas. In case you're not familiar with Cidi Labs, our mission is to help you elevate course design, simplify accessibility, and scale best practices in Canvas. We were founded in 2016 through a partnership with Utah State University, where Kenneth Larson, our co-founder, was working as an instructional designer and wanted to find a better way to build high-quality Canvas courses, which led him to create the first iteration of what would later become Design Plus, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In the 10 years since, we've continued developing clever, affordable tools for Canvas through very close partnerships that we maintain with universities and our customers. Today, I'm joined by 2 members of our fantastic team of educational technology experts. Stephanie Tate is our product marketing manager, and she'll be touring you through the amazing uses for TidyUp. And Michelle Muldowney is one of our 3 incredible customer success managers, and she'll be helping to respond to your questions throughout. So I can see the chat is already quite lively, and we'll be continuing to talk with you in there and dropping some resources and thought-provoking questions in there. And we welcome that, but we do ask that you please submit your questions through the Q&A area in Zoom, and that just helps us better keep track of them, and we will endeavor to answer them all throughout the webinar. Now let's dive into today's topic by first acknowledging that it is very easy to accumulate course clutter in Canvas, right? As courses are used and updated term after term, the amount of duplicate, triplicate, unused, extraneous files and content really starts to build up, as you probably know. But what is the harm with that? Well, maybe you have space to store all that in Canvas, but did you ever think about how that course clutter can leave students, designers, and faculty searching for what they need and really just slow down the course building process, ultimately increasing cognitive load and making courses just less manageable and usable for all of those people? Imagine too that as course designers are earnestly working on improving accessibility, as I know most of you are, they may be wasting precious time remediating outdated content or unused content that students aren't even seeing. And when it comes to any type of quality review process, you can imagine how that work becomes more cumbersome when reviewers have to sort through all that clutter to figure out what's what and what to even review. Lastly, and this one may be new to some of you, but as the prevalence of AI tools continues to grow, institutions are seeing that course clutter is impacting the effectiveness of how those models are trained. And when there's irrelevant and extraneous information hanging around, it can really affect how those tools work. Well, that's where TidyUp, our nifty course cleanup tool for Canvas, comes in. For those who aren't familiar with the tool that we're talking about today, TidyUp plugs right into your Canvas courses to help you quickly identify and remove unused or outdated course files and content and get things organized in order to improve that course experience for all. Essentially, TidyUp makes it easy to combat that problematic course clutter that we just talked about. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie to take us through some of the amazing uses for TidyUp that will really support your goals and propel your progress in Canvas. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yes, so TidyUp is this little tool that can support big impact in Canvas. Today, we'll discuss how TidyUp helps reduce your remediation workload, streamline document remediation processes, support course reviews, right? Think course quality, RSI, etc., and even improve AI assistant accuracy. We'll walk through each of these use cases one by one. So let's dive in. First, we're going to talk about accessibility workload. Many institutions have been working on a big accessibility push, especially in connection with the updated Title II guidelines and the associated compliance deadlines, right? For many, the journey toward accessible courses feels daunting given that sheer volume of inaccessible course files and content. So how can TidyUp help? And that's pretty simple here. TidyUp helps you, as Jennifer already mentioned, not spend precious time remediating files and content students will never see. All those old files your courses carry over term to term that are just like gathering cobwebs in the files area, those are impacting your course accessibility score, impacting your issue counts, your workload, right? And removing them, if they're truly unused in the course, cuts the remediation time associated with those files. So the equation is simple here. Fewer files or less content cluttering a Canvas course equals less remediation. TidyUp's key functionality here is that it can automatically identify which files and content are actively in use in your course and allow you to remove unused items in bulk. Plus, TidyUp helps you streamline duplicate files and content so you don't do the same remediation work twice. Quite annoying, right? Now, seeing is believing, so let's actually jump into TidyUp and see just how easy it is to reduce your potential remediation workload. I'm going to hop over to a course here, and TidyUp would live in your course navigation. When you select it, you're going to be brought to a page that offers you the option to scan your entire course. That's certainly the option I want to take. I want to get rid of this clutter. And TidyUp begins the scan process where it's essentially looking through all of your Canvas files and all of your Canvas content, and it's determining all kinds of cool things, including whether or not that those files and those content items are actively used in a course. And what does that mean? Are they linked or embedded or moduled, right? So truly, they live somewhere, in the case of the files, outside the files area or outside the index for that particular content item. So here we are, TidyUp's finished scanning, and it's brought me right to this files tab. So I'm looking at all of the course files in my course. Well, if you have more than 100, you could switch to all and see all of them. And I don't want to skip over this detail because I think it's wildly important. Being able to see all of your course files in one view, not having to pop in and out of folders, allows you to do a whole heap of things that is amazing, right? Like you can search and you can filter and you can even review all at a glance and not have to like cycle in and out of folders to check on things. So at the onset here, we can see every single file in our course is listed, as I mentioned. You get the file name, you can hover and see that path if you are concerned about where is that file being stored though, and maybe I've lost that functionality in TidyUp. Not at all. The path is listed for you for every file on hover. Where I really want to bring your attention to, though, is this used in column, because this is where the magic is going to happen for us in terms of reducing remediation load. You can see that for one of the MP4s listed at the top of this file section, that MP4 is being actively used on 2 pages, whether it's linked or embedded, right? It exists on those pages. The MP4 right above it, which kind of looks like it might be a copy, is not used anywhere. So automatically, I'm aware that this file could probably be removed from my course. It's likely just a duplicate that's taking up spaces. Maybe I accidentally imported twice. And I could use the little trash can icon to remove it in my actions area. But that's not that exciting. What I want to show you next is incredibly exciting. I can use the TidyUp filters up here and choose to show all unused files in my course. Show me everything that's not linked or embedded somewhere. Ta-da! TidyUp has shown me all of my unused files, the ones that I may spend time remediating that I don't need to spend time on because they'll never see the light of day, theoretically, for my students, right? Of course, you could give this a quick review, but you can also select all, choose to download for an archive. This helps quell the fear of like any educator out there who's thinking, but if I delete it, what if I need it? It's 7 years old, but I might need it this time, right? Okay, you can have a little backup archive save you could download to your computer, and then you can go ahead and remove all that clutter. Just delete it from your course. Remediation workload reduced, right? So that's one way. We're getting rid of all of those files that are not actively in use. Theoretically, what you'd be left with is all of your files in use. For my demo, I'm going to pop back to all here and show you another way that you can think about reducing your workload would be by identifying duplicates. So TidyUp also allows you to use the search functionality here. I can type -1. Canvas used to append a -1 anytime you were uploading course files that have the same file name. Now they have a little bit of a different workflow, but the point remains like you might be able to find some duplicates by typing -1. Here I can see certainly that there are some, like this what is philosophy file. So now I can type back in what is philosophy and find out what's going on here. Oh, that -1 copy not being used anywhere. Again, if this is a PDF, I might have taken time to remediate that I didn't need to, while the original copy is actively being used in a course. Now, I just showed you how you can remove unused and duplicate files, but we can repeat this process for our Canvas content as well, because you're still doing remediation work on your Canvas content to ensure that that content meets accessibility standards, right? Similarly here, you can see all of your content. No need to pop into Pages Index, then Discussions Index, then Assignments Index. It's all here for you to search, to review, to filter. Similarly, we have a used in column for your Canvas content. I can see that nothing is marked used in anywhere, but when I get down far enough because of the way that my columns are sorting, I can see that Module 1 overview is, hey, being used in Module 1. That makes sense. And so that's where that content item is being used. We have some other filters that'll help you kind of look through and kind of get this like broad-based view. You could look for things that are or aren't published in modules or not, whether they have content or not. All of this will help you review. You can also search for duplicates with your content. If you imported something accidentally more than once, I've done it, right? -2, I can find instances of where I've imported something more than once and Canvas adds that -2 or -3 or -227 because you kept importing it without realizing it was there. When you create an intentional copy in Canvas, like through the modules area, you ask to duplicate a page, for example, Canvas adds the word copy to the end of it. And if you ever forgot to take off the word copy, this is a great way to learn about that. But it also helps you identify if there are copies just hanging out in maybe your pages index or assignment index that aren't moduled. We also have a really fun one in TidyUp that I'll just show you briefly, but this is like an extra special hack that you can't do anywhere else. If you add parentheses 2, you can find instances where you've created the same file, or excuse me, the same page name twice. Canvas just will let you name pages the same exact way, and that was like a fix they applied for another issue. If you know the pages non-ID naming saga, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know the difference between these 2 pages, but TidyUp helps me identify if any of them are being used or look, one has content and one doesn't. So a lot of ways to reduce that remediation workload pretty quickly. Now, I am going to jump back for our next use case because we are moving right along. So Hopefully now you saw how TidyUp helps you reduce your remediation workload and remove all that clutter. And now that you've cleared all the unused files out of our course, let's talk about how TidyUp can help streamline your document remediation process. You've still got documents in use and they need to be remediated. How can TidyUp help? Many institutions I know utilize a team or a service to help with document remediation. And doing so requires getting those documents out of Canvas, right, and into the remediation software, whether that be, the original document software, like making a Word document accessible inside Microsoft Word, or whether that's uploading files into a tool that maybe works across document types. And I want to give a little shout out here. This use case came to us from Tanya Malone and the team at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. They explained how TidyUp helps them streamline their document remediation process by making it easy to bulk download all of the course's PDF files that they need to upload into Equidocs, which is a PDF remediation platform that they license. Now, I imagine this audience knows the challenge in remediating PDFs. Feel free to send up a Zoom reaction in solitude with everyone here who's like, oh, the collective sigh of like, yes, there's a lot of work here. Because TidyUp allows you to see all course files in one screen and provides robust filters, it's easy to bulk download only the files you need to download and only the ones that are actively used in the course. So let's see that functionality in action as well. So I'm going to pop back over into TidyUp. I'm going to be back in my files area, and I have all my filters kind of removed just to give you a sense of how this is going to work. I've got a couple options here. I can come up into file types and I can ask, hey, I only want to see PDF files. And the tool is going to return to me all of my PDF files. Now, if I've already cleaned my course, I already used TidyUp to remove all my unused files, then I wouldn't have to worry about this. But if I haven't quite got there, or I've got an instructor who's supposed to be cleaning up their course and they haven't yet got to the task, but we need to move forward, remember, I can also apply that files in use filter. And now I'm only going to download the PDFs from this course and the PDFs that are in use, right? I'm not going to pull down files that aren't in use to start that remediation process. Remember, it's easy to select all and go ahead and download that selected. They'll be zipped together and you can pass that off to whoever may be next or upload those into the software you use to remediate your PDFs. Similarly, you can do this with your word processing files. So I left my files in use filter on here, right? Just remember that that is an option to make sure you're only pulling down like the Word documents that you need to remediate in Word. All right. That one was short and sweet, right? So I want to add one last note here. The team at Cal Poly also uses the Cidi Labs Accessibility Assistant UDoIT Advantage to replace all the inaccessible PDFs with those remediated ones that they have just worked on. And what's amazing about UDoIT's file replacement functionality is that it ensures all links remain intact, even if you've changed the file name to indicate that the file has been remediated, right? Which is a key piece here. And bonus, it deletes the original file for you, all from a single window. That's a side note, but we love it as part of that workflow that Cal Poly is using. All right, so we're moving right along. Clearly, we love how TidyUp improves accessibility workflows, because if you know anything about Cidi Labs, we care deeply about accessibility. But its uses and benefits don't stop there. TidyUp can be used to support your course review process, from course quality reviews to RSI and more. Often these review processes need to map course files or content to specific standards or guidelines, or just simply make it easier for reviewers to browse a course and see clear indication of specific standards. We've heard a variety of ways TidyUp helps with these review processes, but our specific use cases today have been shared by Stacey Greathouse and Jess Callow, who used TidyUp to support quality matters alignment and review. Using TidyUp enabled their course reviewers to easily locate evidence for various QM standards. How, you wonder? First, as we've highlighted already in the webinar today, TidyUp makes it easy to remove unused, outdated, or duplicate files and content, so reviewers aren't wading through clutter to locate evidence, right? Less friction in the finding process lends itself to more successful reviews. Additionally, TidyUp makes it easy to ensure files and content are using intuitive and consistent naming conventions. Again, making it easier to identify or locate evidence in a course. And TidyUp also makes it easy to get a list of all course files to match with specific standards on a rubric. Everyone loves a list to copy and paste from. So let's take a look at how this all works in TidyUp. Jumping back. Excuse me. Okay, so we've showcased already. Let me go ahead and get these filters off. Say I'm looking at all my files, and we've already talked a little bit about the ease with which you can remove unused files, right? So this is just a filter here. I just say, show me all my unused files, and I can remove those. And now that's not cluttering up the files area for reviewers as they're kind of matching up some evidence. We've talked about that piece. I can just select all and download and delete. But in here, what we want to talk about as like a new idea is how easy it is to review the files and adjust them to have more intuitive naming conventions. So for example, if I'm looking at this, well, let me switch back to my files, or just let's talk about just my files in use because that's all I want to focus on. I've got this MP4 here, 20131012. And, you know, sometimes you run into like an educator with a catalog memory who's like, oh, that's my week 4 lecture. Like they know all their crazy files and what their names are. I was probably that educator, if I'm being completely honest. But that's not particularly intuitive for a course reviewer. Neither is it intuitive for your learners if they've downloaded it to their computer and want to interact with it offline. They're like, what in the world is this spam file, right? So inside TidyUp, it's very, very easy to look for any of these instances because remember, you can see all of your files. So I can just scan through and find wacky file names in my course and go ahead and use in the actions area this little edit icon to adjust the name of this file. So I could, you know, call it what I know it is. If this is my week 4 lecture, then I can go ahead and save that and my links are going to remain intact. That helps my learners, that helps me in the long run, use less cognitive load to remember whatever that file was. But it also helps course review, right? I would save this and it would change that file name, but for my demo, I'm just going to X out. Now, you can do this as well with your Canvas content. So if I pop over to my Canvas content tab here, I can see that, right, I can go through all of my content. No, again, jumping into my pages index and then my assignment index and then my discussion index to look and make sure everything is using consistent naming conventions. I can sort this table, I can filter this table in a variety of ways, but I can also just scroll and look for names that I want to change. So if I come down here, let me switch this. Maybe I've got this page that's called Basic Intro Template because I used a template someone gave me and I forgot to change the page name and it was supposed to be like, oh, welcome to the course or something. But this is like way less intuitive. So this is an opportunity, again, very quickly for me to change the name of that content and then have the links remain intact and do so one after the other in one spot. So that's really helpful. Last use case, I'm jumping back to the files area and related to course review here is this idea that you can get a list of all the files in the course. Well, let me switch it back to only files in use here. If I say, hey, let's go ahead and download this selected, oh, not giving me all, let me show, select all. If I select download selected, I get a list of every file in the course. And Jess Callow told me this was actually quite helpful in copying these file names and attaching them to a specific element in the rubric. So I now have a list that I can copy into a document somewhere and have it be an easy copy paste function. All right, so we are moving right along. That was our process for helping with course reviews using TidyUp. We're on our last use case, which Jennifer kind of mentioned is a newer one that we're all having to think about and grapple with. So to round out our TidyUp use cases for today, we want to highlight this emerging need to improve AI assistant accuracy. If you've interacted with AI, you know the accuracy of the bank that it's pulling from is key to its success. The same is true for AI assistants that draw from your Canvas course to assist learners or designers and educators. So another awesome customer shared this particular use case with us. North Central Technical College is using a tool called LearnWise that can provide students with personalized course content, assignment, and study support through a Canvas integrated AI agent. But since this tool uses the content inside the particular course to more effectively support students, it's essential that the content be as accurate as possible. Course clutter can actually lead to the AI assistant returning incorrect due dates, outdated assignment criteria, and more. Similarly, and if you're like, I'm not using a tool like that, but do note this, since Canvas has enabled more robust searching in courses, we've actually heard from customers that students have located all sorts of old content or files the instructor forgot were even in the course, or things that maybe the instructor didn't think they had access to. Quick check, you guys can use a reaction. How many of you have removed a content item from a module and forgot that's not the same thing as deleting it from the course? I sure have, right? And so how does TidyUp help? Well, as you know well by now through the webinars, we've shown some of these functionalities already. TidyUp makes it easy to identify and remove outdated files and content. It helps you streamline duplicates and makes it easy to rapidly edit file and content names from a single screen, which allows you to apply more intuitive naming conventions that actually boost AI and search performance, right? If the name is related to the keyword the student is using, they're going to get better results. So you don't have to take my word for it. I can show you that functionality rapid speed one more time. If I pop over to TidyUp, remember that I have my filters to show me, I'm seeing all my files in the course here. I can switch to just seeing my unused files, and I can select them all, download my selected for an archive, and remove them. And now I'm not worried about my students finding files they weren't supposed to be finding through the search, or AI assistants referencing any of those files as information that wasn't really relevant. You can also, as we've talked about, look for duplicates using the search function, right, to help you find if there's outdated versions or anything like that. And you can similarly repeat this process for Canvas content, right? Find items that are not being actively used anywhere in the course, remove those items, look for items, again, because all of your content is here in one screen, items that you didn't even realize were still in this course. We've talked about how you can easily change the name of all of these items from within TidyUp very easily, and your links remain intact. But lastly, I want to point out some details. You can see, right, we've got like the lock icon next to items that are hidden. Maybe a certain file was supposed to be hidden from students and you didn't realize that it wasn't, right? That's not that intuitive in the Canvas files area. So similarly, you can use your actions button to choose to make something hidden or unpublished in the files area. Similarly with your Canvas content, maybe you didn't realize some of the content was published and it shouldn't be. Here you get a quick glance at things that are published or not published. You can utilize those features, or you can just scan through and try to identify those elements. And so TidyUp gives you vision for all of that to help improve your learner experience, whether they're using search or whether they're using an AI assistant to support them. So with that, we have gone through a lot of uses for TidyUp. And if you want to learn more about TidyUp, you can visit cidilabs.com/tidyup. Or if you just want to get a demo and learn more that way, feel free to schedule a demo. You can use that QR code, or again, go to cidilabs.com/tidyup.
All right. Great job, Stephanie. Look at all that applause and hearts. I love it.
Thank you all.
We had a very lively Q&A panel, which was fun for Michelle and I to see all the great questions coming in. I think one that I'll just reiterate out loud is TidyUp is a separately licensed product from Design Plus or You Do It or any other tools from Cidi Labs that you may have. And again, it is priced in the similar way that your other tools are priced based on FTE or student count. And it is more, or I should say, it is less costly than a Design Plus or UDoIT license. So yeah, again, if you would like to talk pricing or get a demo or ask even more questions, definitely use that link we put in the chat or the QR code on the screen to reach out to us for a one-on-one meeting. I think we answered all the other questions. Is there anything that jumps out at you, Michelle, that we should cover out loud?
There's just one question about how if TidyUp recognizes files copied over from a previous term, that would show up in one of the columns. But if you've copied over from another term, that's going to be the date that shows as last. I forget. Sorry, I don't have that.
Yeah, it's like the import date when you brought it over is going to be here. It's not going to keep track of data from the previous term when you imported it into the other course. It's just looking at this course, which is in itself kind of helpful because maybe that file was in use in a previous course, but when you brought it over, you are no longer using that. Maybe you've adjusted your curriculum or whatever, right? And so it's going to start with the import date for this course. Okay, well, we're at time here. Thank you everyone so much for going on this quick journey with us. We will be sending out a recording. I'm sure everyone always asks about that. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye.